Chapter 4. At last, Adam reached the bottom of the slope. He ran through the tall grass in the meadow and found the path that led to the log bridge. Panting, he stopped in the middle of the meadow and looked back. Sam wasn't there. Adam pictured the big, clumsy man tripping and tumbling his way down the slope, getting bruised and scratched. When Sam finally arrived at the bridge, huffing and puffing for air, Adam would be waiting. Still, not taking the slightest chance, Adam ran on till he got to the bridge. He stepped up on the huge log and walked out to the center. There, he turned back to face the ridge. He was panting for breath, but proud as all get out. "Really outfoxed you, didn't I?" he said, looking toward where he'd left Sam far behind. "Speaking of foxes," came a deep voice from beneath the bridge. Adam jumped, startled. He had to reach down and grab hold of the log to keep from falling off. There below him, Sam was sitting under the log, whittling on a stick. He was not even breathing hard. He was as relaxed and refreshed as an old coonhound basking in the summer sun. Adam couldn't believe his eyes. It looked like Sam had been there half an hour waiting on him. Adam's mouth flopped open and his eyes bulged out. "There was this fox up on the Teton Range." Sam went right on talking. "Crafty old rascal he was. He figured out how to drop a mouthful of sticks into my traps and set them off. Then he could take the bait without worry. Well, sir, he was about to mess up my whole trap line. He even got to where he'd set the traps off and not even touch the meat. Guess he was having so much fun." "How?" Adam panted. "How'd you do it?" Sam ignored him and went right on with his story. "Got to be a game with him, I reckon. He was having so much fun setting up my traps, he'd make 6, sometimes 8 of them in a day. Wasn't too funny to me, though." "How did you beat me back?" Adam gasped. "You didn't pass me on the trail. How?" "I'd figured I'd go broke if I let that fox kept setting off them traps," Sam chuckled to himself. "Well, I finally figured him out." "How?" Adam almost screamed. Sam paused a moment and looked up at him. "You really want to know?" Adam nodded, figuring he was talking about the race. Sam smiled. "Well, sir, I let him outfox himself. I got one of my old busted traps that wouldn't work. No matter how many sticks he dropped on it, or no matter if he even went and jumped up and down on the thing, it still wouldn't go off. And you know something? That old fox didn't bother any of my other traps." He frowned, scratching at his chin. "Fact was, I never did see that old fox again. Wonder if he's still sitting around trying to figure out how to set that trap off." Adam shook his head from side to side, giving up. There was no way in the world Sam could have beaten him down from the mountain. But here he was, sitting, whittling on a stick, talking like he wasn't the least bit winded. Adam scooted around so he could hang his feet off the log and look down at Sam. "Please tell me how you beat me here," he begged. Sam winked at him. "I outfoxed you," he answered. "Wasn't hard to do either. That's something you got to remember when you're betting with somebody. If you get too busy trying to outfox them, there's a chance you'll overdo it and wind up outfoxing yourself." Adam nodded, knowing that was exactly what he'd done. "I still don't see how you outran me." Sam tossed the stick he was whittling into the stream. "I didn't. Fact is, I walked down the mountain." "Walked?" "That's right. I lived around here all my life, except for the years I came to visit relatives in Tennessee when I met your mom. I know every inch of these hills. There's a shortcut." He shook his head quickly, like he was reading Adam's mind. "It don't mean I'm smarter than you are or a better runner. It just means I'm older. I've had more time to learn stuff about this place. If you want to take your bet back, it's all right. I won't hold you to it." Adam frowned. Finally, he shook his head. "No, a bet's a bet. I'll hold my part of it. I said I'd let you name what I had to do. I wouldn't be much of a man if I went back on my own bet." Chopping wood or carrying rocks from the new ground they were clearing for corn, or toting water for Mother, or cutting trees for corrals, or digging post holes wouldn't be too hard. Anything Sam could name, Adam was sure he could handle. But what Sam finally came up with was a surprise. Almost too much of a surprise, and almost more than Adam could take. "Your mom's wanting us to spend more time together," Sam said. "So to pay off your bet, you got to go with me to run the trap line." Adam had been prepared for any hard work there was to do, but spending 3 days with a man he hated and despised was almost too much. It was worse than hard work, or sweating, or coming in at night with sore muscles. Just the thought of it was downright sickening. But the worst part of all was discovering later that he enjoyed it and almost liked being with Sam. For 3 days they traveled country where it looked like no man had ever set foot. Rugged mountains with no trails except those carved by the hooves of deer or buffalo. Waterfalls where the roaring spray sent up rainbows of red and blue and green and gold. Beaver ponds where the surface of the water was so calm that you could see the mountains in the sky. Mountains and sky in them like you were looking in a fine mirror from one of the fancy stores back east. There were animals everywhere. Deer that stood like stone statues until you were almost close enough to touch them, and buffalo like giant boulders speckling a rolling meadow. Once, they rounded a bend in a stream and came upon a moose that looked twice the size of any bear Adam had ever seen. There were trout in the streams. In one place, below a small waterfall, they were so thick Adam wondered how they even had room to swim. Sam knew all of the animals, their ways, and where to find them. He pointed out their sign and showed Adam how to tell where they were traveling, how big they were, and what they were feeding on just by looking at their tracks. Sam knew a lot about trapping, too. Adam lost count of how many traps they checked, but all he had to do to remember was count the pelts they brought back. There was an animal in every trap Sam had set. They trapped beaver and muskrat mostly, but there were also weasels and foxes whose thick fur was as soft as a down pillow. A little animal Sam called a mink, about the meanest little critter for its size Adam had ever seen, had brown fur that was softer than even a beaver's pelt. To Adam's way of thinking, Sam knew everything there was about tracking and trapping and being out in the mountains. They didn't take anything with them except Sam's rifle and a sack of flour and salt. But Sam gathered in enough food and made Adam feel like he got plumb fat by eating all of it. Berries and plums were everywhere, just for the taking. Acorns and hazelnuts and walnuts speckled the ground. All you had to do was bend down and pick up what you wanted. Sam showed Adam how to catch trout by climbing up on a ledge and dropping a big rock on them. It wasn't as sporting as catching them on a hook, but it worked just as well and got just as many fish when they were hungry. But nothing tasted as good as the wild turkey Sam brought down with his rifle. They roasted it over an open pine fire, and Adam ate so much of the breast he could hardly move when he was finished. In the evenings, while they were skinning out the pelts and waiting for their food to cook, Sam would talk about trapping or living off the mountains, and Adam would listen, clinging to every word Sam said. He listened and learned all he could about mountain life. Once, when he wasn't watching too closely, he got to thinking that he wished he were like Sam and could know everything about the mountains and the animals that lived there. But the minute they came back to their valley, 3 days after they left, Adam went right back to feeling like he did before. Sam might know a lot about the mountains, he told himself, but he still isn't my dad. I don't want to be like him. If Dad were here, he could do everything Sam does, only better. Maybe. Mother was waiting by the front door of the log cabin. When she saw them come across the meadow, she waved a welcome. Lori and the red pup were romping around the stoop. She had hold of him by one ear and was sprinkling sand over his back and laughing her head off. The red pup was wagging his fuzzy tail and nipping playfully at her arms, trying to lick her face with its long, lolling tongue. Adam froze stiff in his tracks. A puff of red anger clouded his eyes. Lori squealed and laughed, her shrill laugh making the pup flatten his ears and shake his head from side to side. Adam clenched his fists at his sides, and silent rage shook his muscles. "That's my dog!" he screamed. "You let him go!" He charged across the meadow like a mad bull chasing after a coyote. Not seeing him, the red pup shoved Lori back into the porch and started licking her face. She rolled her head from side to side, squealing and giggling. "You leave my dog alone before I beat the sap out of you," Adam ordered. "Don't talk to your sister like that," Mother scolded from the doorway. "That's my dog," Adam screamed back. "She's got to ruin him playing like that." He shook an angry fist at Lori. "I'm going to whale the tar out of you." Mother rushed out and snatched Lori up in her arms like she was protecting her from a mad grizzly bear. "What on earth is wrong with you, Adam? That's my dog." Sam came up behind him, lugging a heavy load of pelts slung over his back. "We know it's your dog, Adam. Ain't no need to get yourself all riled over your sister just playing with him." Adam wheeled on him, eyes glaring. "That's just it. If I'm ever going to make a trail hound out of him, I can't have anybody playing with him all the time. I can't have that little brat making a pet out of him." Sam frowned. "I don't think she's hurting him none. A little petting and playing won't hurt him. I reckon," well, he seemed a little confused at what to say next. "I reckon a little lovin' never hurt no animal." Adam reached down and grabbed the pup by a long, floppy ear. He squealed and tried to pull away. Adam jerked on him and made him squeal again. "You just don't understand," Adam huffed at Sam. "You don't know nothing about trail hounds. If Dad was here, he'd understand. He'd tell you I'm right." "He's hurting my dog," Lori squealed. "Adam's hurting my puppy." Adam snapped his head to the side. He stared at his little sister like he was going to eat her alive. "He ain't yours." "He is too." "He ain't." "He is." "Ain't." Is. She ended up by sticking her tongue out at him. "That's enough of this," Mother yelled above their commotion. "You two are arguing like a pair of little babies. The dog belongs to both of you, and you can share him without all the fussing." Adam turned back to Sam. "When you found him in that cave and brought him home, you said he was mine, didn't you?" Sam looked at Mother with a frown. Then he looked back at Adam. "Well, he stammered. "Well, didn't you?" Adam persisted. "Didn't you say he was mine?" Finally, Sam gave a short nod. Adam squinted his eyes tight when he looked back at Lori. "See? He's mine, not yours. Sam gave him to me." Everything was quiet for a moment. A tear welled in Lori's eye, then trickled slowly down her rounded cheek. When Adam looked up at Mother, he noticed the firm, determined way her jaw stuck out. "Let go of the dog," she said calmly. "He's mine," Adam argued. Then he said it again, almost pleading. "He's mine." Mother's face was as stern as ever, and her voice so calm it seemed to flow like honey. "Let go of the dog, Adam." He felt the tears welling up. He felt the warm, wet feeling as they raced down his sunburned cheeks. "But he's my dog," he sniffed. Mother looked at him with tight, sad eyes. "Adam," was all she said. His hand loosened on the floppy ear, and the red pup shook his head, then scampered from the porch and raced toward the back of the house with his tail tucked between his legs. Adam looked at his mother, then at Sam. His stomach was all tied in knots. He tried to stop the tears from coming, but he couldn't. That was the worst thing of all, having Sam and his mother see him crying like a little kid. And when he could stand the embarrassment no longer, when he felt like he was going to burst wide open if they kept looking at him, he turned and ran toward the mountains behind the cabin. Like he expected, no one called after him or ordered or begged him to come back. "They don't care," he cried inside. "They just don't care about me." It seemed like everything he had ever loved was gone now. His father was dead, but the memory of him still lingered. That seemed to make the hurting worse. Sam and Mother had taken him away from all the people and places he knew and brought him out to where there were no friends to play with and no warm streams to swim in. And now they had taken the last thing in the world that was really his. They'd taken his big, clumsy, red pup.